You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is March 5th, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we have a really special show. We have a January 6th protester who we interviewed before, Patrick Wohl, and we introduced him before as just Patriot Patrick because we were a little concerned about anonymity because unfortunately there's a lot of people out there who will send threats and do terrible things to people who don't share the same politics as they might have. So, but we're at a stage now where I think we're kind of well beyond that. And so, before when we interviewed Patrick, he had been sentenced and he had not actually had to report yet, and now he actually has had to report, and he has been to prison for a short amount of time, well, a few months, I guess, and then he got his pardon, so he got an early release with the pardon. So we're going to talk to him about all of that. We're going to see some new video that we didn't see the last time we interviewed him, and if you want to check out that earlier show we did with him, that was back in November of 2024. So you can go search for that and find out a little bit more about that. But anyways, before we get into the rest of the show, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our protester for liberty, Patrick Wohl, who was there in person at J6. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that, and also too, real quick at the end of the show, we're going to give a little review of the State of the Union, because that was kind of a historic State of the Union that we just saw yesterday. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So anyways, let's dive right in with our Liberty quote of the day. So I think this is super appropriate given the abuses that the system has leveled against both Trump and January 6ers. And it's from Martin Luther King Jr. And, sadly, a lot of the people who are leveling a lot of these abuses of justice might have considered him a hero at one point. And I don't know how they lost their way, but he made the statement, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I can't imagine a more appropriate statement about the way that people were abused. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and show video of Patrick in the Capitol, and we're going to show what he did and the sentence that he got for it, which just was to me absolutely barbaric. But anyways, what do you guys think about this quote? I think this is just one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep, Patrick, you can go. Like let's deal with the code, Bella. You can go.
Oh yeah. No, I was just agreeing with that. It's very succinct. Brevity is the soul of wit, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Leon.
Well, let's give our guests a chance to comment on the code, though, please. Patrick.
Oh, wait, what? You're going to me to talk about that?
Yes, about the code. Yes, please.
Well, if you have any thoughts on it. So
no, I mean, I think they had to take, CIA was involved in that, and they use that, and look at him at a threat, and then suddenly now he's like, for switched sides. So, I was in prison and I had a stroke, so my thoughts and my head isn't right. So please try not. I'm doing the best I can, but
sure.
Like if you put me on a post to come up with stuff from the talking about this, it's going to be hard for me to get my speak out. I had a major stroke on December 18th, so I'm getting better. So I apologize. I'm not going to blow you away with that. So I'm going to let you drive, and I can make comments.
And just for the audience too, so this is something Patrick told me before, and like I said, we interviewed him before, and if you notice a difference, that's it. I mean, this, he and we're going to get into that too, where he literally told them that he had a medical condition, and they just flat out didn't care. So that's part of the actual horrifying injustice of this whole thing. But anyways, Leon, why don't you tell us what you think about the quote?
Well, this quote was I think came out of the civil rights era. Martin Luther King, I think, wrote it in a letter from the Birmingham jail, and it's quite appropriate for what we're about to discuss about the injustice that we may see and sometimes ignore, because we are the unfortunate part of our history during the end. The end of the Jim Crow era, it was about 100 years, almost 100 years of African American, Black Americans living under some of the most horrible conditions you could imagine. I guess probably not second only to probably slavery, I would imagine. But the point is though, if we in society ignore injustices, we are really and truly treading on some very difficult waters, because it will spread. If we think it's okay to ignore the injustice being administered upon fellow citizens, it is bound to spread, and sooner or later it's going to come to us. We have seen other situations here in our society. Most recently, I mean, we're going to talk about Patrick's situation and all his fellow J6s. But we saw such an injustice in the summer of 2020. Everybody wanted to talk about it. It was a fight for social justice. But who was prosecuted for all the injustices that were committed against our fellow citizens? People were killed, properties was destroyed. And what we do? We ignore it in the name of social justice. And now that we see Trump is a new administration, Trump is is a president now, and there's some accountability that they are trying to institute. We are hearing all sorts of cries of retribution. Oh my God, how horrible it is! How horrible it is! But nobody wants to talk about the injustices that was done over the summer of 2020, and everybody in the legacy media wants to talk about how horrible it was, that insurrection that occurred on January 6th. But Martin Luther King was right. If you ignore injustice, it's going to spread, and eventually it comes for you, the innocent. And this is where we at with these people of January 6th who were treated like they were war criminals, I guess. What else could you say? Injustice ignored, it will spread.
Okay. Well, and I think that's a good segue to get into this stuff. But before we do, I want people to be able to find Patrick's page if you don't wind up being able to stay for the whole show. So James, our invisible hand, maybe you could bring this up. So this is Patrick's YouTube page. You can see some of the videos that we're going to show here and some of the ones we showed in the previous show that we did with Patrick. So, you know, things like, you know, the FBI raiding his home that we showed in the last one, and some of the stuff that was happening outside the Capitol as well. We're going to go through some more stuff that's sort of happening inside the Capitol a little more this time. So anyways, you can find that at YouTube under Patriot Patrick. And he also has an X page as well, which might be the better place to go to nowadays, because a lot of times you can't depend upon YouTube to play fair on some of this stuff. Sometimes they wind up blacking out some of these. So and his page, you can see it scrolling down there, but I can't get into it at the moment because I'm not signed in for it. So, but it's at x.com at Patriot Pat 2Dude. So anyways, check that out as well. And I imagine he'll be posting more stuff as well, because I think he has access to quite a bit. So it'll be great to see what else comes up there. But anyways, yeah, as Leon was talking about, and we covered this in depth in the last show, what happened in 2020. And I'm just going to show one image because this pretty much captures it all. But this, and maybe you could bring this up again, James, but this is essentially what was happening, the peaceful protesting that we were hearing about, right?
Mostly peaceful, Jason.
Yeah,
mostly peaceful.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and this says it all, the way the media played it, right? Is if it was the stuff they wanted to see protesting for, it was fiery, but mostly peaceful protesting, right? So, and, you know, we remember Chris Cuomo saying, who says protests have to be peaceful? So and we talked about it. We showed some video of the chop zone in Seattle the last time, where they literally just surrendered 6 blocks and gave it away for weeks on end until some people died there, and then the government finally stepped back in again. So the norms of what were acceptable as protests had completely been upended, especially in Democrat cities, run cities during that time. And to the point where a lot of the people involved in activities like what you see behind this guy, a lot of them weren't arrested, right? And it was just, in fact, you even had, prominent Democrats like Kamala paying bails to get people out of jail who the police did arrest in some of these cases. So, so I just wanted to kind of lay the framework down that, we can't look at what happened on January 6th in a vacuum. Which is what Democrats tend to want us to do. Like it's something like it just happened. It came from outer space, who could have predicted something like this? But this is kind of a good way that this is from the Wall Street Journal, but it's essentially,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If it came from outer space, it would have actually been an organized, actual, real insurrection instead of just a demonstration that got out of hand. So, at least the aliens would have some organization, assuming they made it all the way here. That's just my assumption there. Not having rubbed elbows with too many aliens. But,
and I imagine they might have shown up with some ray guns too. And
Yes.
Patrick and his buddies, they didn't have any ray guns.
Right. They would have had a centralized command and control. They would have been armed. Yes. All the requirements of a true insurrection, which is why Wikipedia doesn't even put it in their list of insurrections.
But anyways, so this is I wanted to pull up this one visual of a story in the mainstream media, and this is from the Wall Street Journal, and they're quoting Kamala Harris, and she calls January 6th the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. So we're not blowing this, we're not making this stuff up. This is how the mainstream media was characterizing what happened on January 6th, as opposed to fiery but mostly peaceful protesting that happened all throughout 2020. So anyway, so that's a brief recap of what we talked about in the last video. But we have some really interesting new stuff that Patrick had, and I really want to share some of that, because not only does it show some images you might not have seen of the Capitol protesting, but it also characterizes the way Patrick behaved in this. And we're going to talk about, in fact, let me show the charges real quick that Patrick was hit with, so that you can see them. He was hit with essentially these things that amounted to trespassing. So one of them was this 18 USC 1752A1. And by the way, they used to have a page up, or I would have just pulled that up with his name on it. But I think since Trump pardoned everybody, that page got wiped out of justice.com because I can't find it anymore. But these were the charges. And so it says the statute criminalizes knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds without lawful authority. So essentially trespassing is what they're talking about. And then this next one, 1752A2, this section goes further, criminalizing disorderly or disruptive conduct within a building, restricted grounds with the intent to impede or disrupt government business. Okay, I think we just saw somebody at the State of the Union who tried to disrupt government business. Yes. I don't think they're going to jail. So, and then we saw.
He's a Democrat, so he gets a pass.
Yeah. So then now we have 40 USC 501. This statute specifically applies to the Capitol grounds, prohibiting engaging in disorderly or disruptive conduct with the intent to impede the orderly conduct of a congressional session. Okay, again, that sounds very much like what happened at the State of the Union last night. And then finally, this one, 5104 of 40 USC. And it says, within the Capitol grounds, this section explicitly prohibits parading, demonstrating, or picketing. Okay, so those are the crimes. And Patrick was sentenced to 6 months in jail. Okay, and he had the FBI raiding his house over this. And, and like I said, you can go back, you can watch the videos that Patrick has at his site, and you can go back and check check out our last interview with Patrick. But I mean, this is literally what he was put in jail for. And so now we're going to get to some of the videos so we can actually see it for ourselves, what was going on.
But you know, they need to reword that. It should say prohibiting Republicans from engaging in this, that, or the other.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would throw a few libertarians in there too.
Well, let's say reword it to non-Democrats.
Non-Democrats. There you go. That'll just cover
Yeah.
everybody. Right there.
Yeah.
Non-Democrats. Only Democrats allowed to do that disruptive behavior.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so the first one I think is just great because this shows just an angle that we haven't seen before. And somehow, Patrick, you were outside on the scaffolding, and we'll get into in another video where you actually entered the Capitol. But this one I just wanted to show because I don't think most people have even seen this angle. So I think it's really interesting. And it's really interesting, too, to see how you actually interacted with the police when they gave you an order here. So let's go to KOL 1. James, can you play that?
Hey everyone, here's some video from January 6, 2021 that you've never seen before. We all know it was comparable to Pearl Harbor, 9/11, the Civil War, so let's watch it and you be the judge. Okay, so I'll do some commentary as the video plays. This is from Speaker of the House's balcony, Nancy Pelosi's balcony, January 6, 2021.
That's a Tiananmen Square moment. He needs some backup.
You see the one guy facing off against all these police. I'm not quite sure why they just didn't take him down. I mean, it's what, 100 to 1. So that's kind of interesting.
Trying to incite violence, or
He's kind of running around.
But this is a bunch of BS. We're tired of it. So this is what happens. So you people with your heads in the sand and say that our elections have been fair and it's just bullshit what we're doing. Well, a lot of other people don't think it's bullshit. People drove from California. I was taken off of American Airlines. Oh, can't talk. Yes.
So there's another guy up there with me.
We've been too quiet, but no longer.
He was some YouTuber. And we're just kind of watching things unfold. Some interesting things happen here.
From where? Baltimore? Okay, cool.
So now, listen.
Sacramento, man. Yeah. You too, man. This is a moment in history, dude. Yeah. My car's about ready to die on my phone. So, yeah. Here, I'll go over there.
So up to that point, when we get back to the video, there's just a little bit more I want to show, and it's where the police confront you up there on the balcony. But before we get to that, can you tell us how did you get up there? I mean, it seems crazy that you were able to be on the balcony.
So I walked in through the Senate wing and followed I didn't know they were feds. I thought it was just the group, but it was a group of following the feds, and we were in the crypt for a while, and then we went up some stairs, and we ended up in Pelosi's office, and we're like, oh wow, and we looked in there, and then I was leaving, and somebody broke something, I don't know, they broke some glass or something in Pelosi's suite, and you can hear everybody say, no vandalism, no fighting, no nothing. But when they were in the trial, they cut all that parts out. Anything that I said, don't do any vandalism, they stop it. So I just walked out there, and that balcony that I was standing on, that was Pelosi's balcony, that whole balcony.
That scaffolding area and everything.
And I was up there with a few guys, and I wanted a better angle. So I walked up to scaffolding up there, and we walked up there, and then I took those pictures, and we'll talk about talking to the police to do what they said. So,
well, let's jump to the second piece of the video real quick, and then we can all jump in on the conversation. So, James, can you get to KOL 2?
Okay. All right.
How many people are up there?
so that's a police officer telling us to get down. I tell him just us. I guess he took my word for it. Didn't check himself. So I get down. I'm off on this little scaffolding thing you can see there. And there's a little hatch to walk down. So I go by, listen.
How do I get out? All right.
How,
You can't shoot the people.
how do I get out? Another police officer doesn't arrest me. He just kind of points me off. And by the way, he didn't give me the correct directions to get out of there. So, but eventually I made my way out. I think it took me 4 minutes or something from that point to get out of the Capitol. We were waved in. We were led upstairs. We were left to roam around. And we're led to believe that the police were in fear for their life. At the breach, they had to run and just hand it over. But I talked to several police in there, and I mean, you be the judge. Did they look like they were in fear for their life? Why didn't they arrest me? If I wasn't supposed to be there, why not, tell me to leave or arrest me or something? No, they told me to go back inside and pointed the way. So anyway, you be the judge on what's true and what's false. Talk to you later.
So anyways, yeah, that's you can see more videos like that at Patrick's site. But there you have it. I mean, the interaction with the police, they asked him questions, he answered them, and he followed their directions. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about this? To me, this, I mean, one, not only is it fascinating video, but it's also, they're literally following the police's directions.
Yeah.
You see, when the Justice Department in our society become the Injustice Department, we have a real problem. Because look at that video. I am sure nowhere, well, I have never seen that video before tonight, and I'm sure nowhere in the media that video will ever be presented, in the legacy media I'm talking about. But yet, we hear so much about this insurrection. We hear so much about all of these people who have done all these things. They have damaged police officers. They did this and they did that. And these people were placed in prison. Some were, well, Patrick were lucky. At least he didn't have to go sit in prison before he was tried. I think Patrick could correct me on that. But this gets back to what Martin Luther King says. Injustice anyway will lead to injustice, when once ignored, will always cause injustice to spread. And this is exactly what is going on in our society, where now people can do almost anything as long as they call it social justice. It's okay. So we could see buildings burning down, and we could say it was a mostly peaceful protest. It was a little fiery, but it's okay. We can see the building in Portland with people in it, and they're trying to burn it down. Oh, it was for social justice. Who was tried for that? So the people who are supposed to be administering justice in our society administer the greatest amount of injustice we have seen in modern times with these January 6ers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm assuming you weren't armed, right?
No, I had my phone. That was it.
That was it. You're armed
was
with
it.
a cell phone. Okay. All right.
And Tim, that'll be evident in some of the
and-
other video that we show as well coming up. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't mention.
And the two police officers had AR-15s probably.
that's what it
Correct.
looked like.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were, but
All right.
the one guy had a coffee there, and he was just chilling. You saw his gun hanging there. Like, he didn't even look up there to see who else was there. He's like, who else is up there? And walked in and I saw the second one, and I said, how to get out of there, and you cannot cheat the people. And then when they had the trial, they took my phone. To this day, they still have it. I had to buy a new phone. So when I was during the trial, I wasn't given any of it. So any of this footage I didn't have, and they all lied in there and said that I said you can't shoot the people. So they kept saying, oh, and they all said that. And like, you can listen to it. I said cheat. It's clear. And as soon as I called him up, I was on stand, and I said, I never said that. Oh, no, never mind. We'll come back to it later. And they just moved on. And so they all had that planned. And that's, isn't that, what is that? Corruption for the RICO or something? Because they had all the people on stand, all on prosecuting, all lying, you know?
Well, you know, we before we go to our break for public access, we don't have enough time for the next video clip to squeeze that in. But I did want to ask you, since you talked about the court process, when you were, I guess, being tried, did you have to then go, because they arrested you here in Sacramento, or in the north area of Sacramento, I guess, and so you had to then go all the way to Washington D.C. to be tried on this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and they did you have time to get an attorney or anything else, or was this something where they just snapped you up and appointed somebody to you?
When I got out after the FBI put me in, they wouldn't show me the warrant or anything. I was in there for 3 days, and I came out and I just took a public defender and that was who I took. But he was pretty useless for me. Like, didn't give me any of my stuff, and so I was basically myself.
So how did you get that video if they still have your phone and you took
So
it with them?
I was at a friend's house with my phone synced up to the cloud and uploaded everything. So I was like, oh, I found it. So that's how I found it.
Okay.
They're holding all my stuff still. But I did have a back yet of it. Luckily, you know. So
yeah. I figured that's how you did it.
Yeah. So.
Well, now, just wanted to let you know, if you're watching us on public access, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and a little bit about the State of the Union as well. So go check us out there to see the rest of the show. But that's the end of our time for public access. But let's get back to the show. And so, Patrick, I wanted to show now a video of you entering the Capitol. And I think it's interesting because it literally shows how you entered the Capitol, and there didn't appear to be any violence or anything else going on. You're not smashing through a door. You don't look like the Kool-Aid man coming through a wall. So let's check this out. It's KOL 3.
Hey, it's Patrick. Another January 6th video. You probably know my position on what it was, but I'm going to unravel some of this stuff, and hopefully I can make it make sense and you come to the same conclusion that I came to. So anyway, I'll play the video. This is the Senate wing doors, and you can see the Department of Justice has circled me actually walking in. I've overlaid the 3 ovals, the white, the yellow, and the blue. The small white one is around it's called a dead cat. It's for an audio boom microphone. I'll show you a picture right here. That's a Hollywood technique to sync the audio to the camera. The one around the yellow or the blue oval is the cameraman. That's a professional camera. That needs to stay close to the guy capturing the audio. And then in the yellow oval, I don't know, it might be green, I'm colorblind, is the agitator. So I guess he's supposed to be a Trump supporter, and they have some sort of altercation there, a non-physical but very animated. And in my opinion, this is all just a big movie script.
So essentially what you saw there in the red circle, that was Patrick coming in through the doors. He's just walking in with a group of people. And the other circles, as we're going to find out, are people who seem to almost be doing something performative. Somehow they were there with their equipment. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they're feds, but they might have been, who knows. And they're pointing at the, they're trying to get the most graphic stuff, not showing it at the people just orderly walking in, but pointing it at the people coming through the windows and such. So let's, and also just focusing on some guy who seems to be, like Patrick was saying, acting overly aggressive when everybody else was just walking in. They're focusing on just this one guy. So let's go to the second part of the video. James, this is KOL4.
You can see them coming out with you'll see the audio boom microphone holder and the cameraman, and then there's another guy that I haven't circled. So all three of them stay together and work in unison. And you'll notice at one point the production assistant and the boom microphone holder puts her hand on the shoulder of the cameraman and tells him to face the window, and they all turn, and the audio guy puts his microphone out facing that. So I can tell you for sure, I didn't see one group of professional camera crews outside of the Capitol. And you would think if this was such a breach of the Capitol that the police had to leave, that a camera crew would not be there. And I don't know, it seems very weird to me. So the camera guy, you see the little dead cat poking out of the screen there. So they all stay together. See them come out, all three of them in sync. You see them put their hands on his shoulder, look through the window, and then you see me walking in about the same time. I don't notice them at the time. I just turn right because that's where they waved us in and said to go right. And then this agitator, I guess I don't know what he's saying to them, but it all seems very strange to me. The police had to leave because this was a violent insurrection and they were overran. You can tell most of the people are just walking in, and this little scene in the foreground and people jumping through the window. And I have questions like, why are they jumping through the window? I mean, there was a ramp set up. They're waving us in. The doors were open. You can see it right there. So why are people jumping in and out of the window? And then why is a professional camera crew capturing the people jumping in the window? That all seems very weird and staged, in my opinion.
So anyways, and the video goes on just a little bit longer, but you can see, I mean, Patrick just walked in, okay? 6 months. Okay, 6 months in jail and an FBI investigation and all that for somebody who just walked in. And Patrick wasn't the only one. You could see a lot of people just walking in, holding their phones around, right? I mean, this is absolutely nuts. And we didn't show this on the last one because we didn't have it, but the last show we did, Patrick had video from the outside, and it showed everybody lined up orderly with police literally letting them come in. And so, Patrick, did any police officer ever tell you don't come into the Capitol when you were, or were you ever given instructions not to come in?
Well, there was one outside, but the camera was broken, so I can't show that. The one outside, right side, was going like that, or he was wearing the same clothing to make you think that he's Capitol. And then inside, there's more that was close to the same. They're going. You saw us all go to the right. So I didn't really, at the time, I didn't know what was going on with the window and all that. I didn't know at the time, but you can see us all walk there, and they wore Capitol uniform. So whether they were or were to look that, but they were doing that, and you can see everyone just walking calmly over there, and then the people running through the window was very different. So,
and that was official video from the Capitol then too, because I mean, obviously you weren't the one filming that. That was just what was taken by the Capitol and used against you guys, I guess.
Yeah, I have another video that's going to come out actually from the outside too. So I'll do another video on that too. But yeah.
You guys, before we go to the next video, do you guys have any? What are your takes on all this? I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is 6 months in prison.
The word set up and cover up comes to mind, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think there was a concerted effort by I don't know if it was the FBI or whoever it was, but somebody within government. It was a concerted effort to make this into an insurrection.
Yep.
And I think for the most part they succeeded. And look at what have happened to the J6s.
And so the guy swinging the flagpole around, the gray-haired guy that looked like, yeah. Did you see him elsewhere during the day or prior to that, or was he just?
I didn't remember that until looking after the fact, but he was part of the script to do that and act like, the MAGA hats on and acting all like, I didn't know who that was, but I'm sure he was a Fed or an asset, so in my
there's a record. I mean, I'm not making this up. There were 26 undercover FBI agents in the informants, I guess I should say, not necessarily agents. There are 26 of them in the crowd, as far as we know. God knows how many other government types who are around there.
Well, yeah. Remember, Leon, they're not even admitting that guys like Ray Epps were an asset.
I know.
Who got a sweetheart deal.
And Ray Epps is a very interesting character in all of this. We have Ray Epps on video saying we have to go into the Capitol. We have to go into the Capitol. And then, eventually they did charge him with something. But what they gave him? Some Mickey Mouse misdemeanor thing, as far as we know.
And they tried not to charge him at first, too. They were going to give him a pass until the political heat got on.
Exactly. Yes.
Put him in Hilton for a day.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, I want to go to one last piece of video, and this one just sort of cements the story that we've seen so far. But this is Patrick in the rotunda. He's under the rotunda at this point, and again, Patrick, you're going to see him in the red circle. He's outlined a few other circles on people he thinks is kind of suspicious, but the red circle is Patrick, and he's just walking through documenting things with his phone. That's all that's happening here. So, James, can you play KOL 5?
Hey, everybody. Here's another video. These are all automated videos. They've been sent to different encrypted servers across the world, and they're automated delivery, which I have no control over. I might actually be in prison now. I was in jail, out of jail, and then going to prison. So by the time you get this, I might already be in prison. So let me just unpack this. This is January 6th. This is the rotunda. We were waved in and left to roam around in the rotunda for a while. You can see as part of the prosecution, they've circled me. You'll see me on the right hand of the screen circled. The only thing I've done to this video is I've noted a blue and a white circle, two key people that you'll also see. And I also did a picture-in-picture in the lower left, which is from this video, but I slowed it down and I repeated it. So the main video is all real time. The picture-in-picture is slowed down, so it's not going to match. So, but I focus in on a couple of key points. So I'm going to play the video and we'll go through it. Okay, you can see me circled on the right hand of your screen, walking around with my camera, my phone. And this guy is a Capitol Police officer walking around with the white circle that I put on. And we're told they were in fear for their lives and they had to flee and it got taken over. You see this guy in the blue circle, fist bump, and walk away and then raise his hands up. He's got the red hat on, so that's interesting. So you can look at the picture-in-picture and see their interaction. And I think I've seen that guy on CNN and several news stations. So that's curious that they actually knew each other. So
there you go, and you can catch. There's another few minutes of that video that if you're interested, you can go to Patrick's websites and check those out. But again, we see Patrick walking through and just documenting stuff, and that's all. And by the way, you can look as Tim, you were noting earlier, no ray gun. When I'm looking around, I don't see any weapons, anything other than people with flags, that are trying to demonstrate their politics in there. So
one hell of an insurrection, quite frankly.
Yeah.
All right.
So
that's a horrible. If that's an insurrection, that's the worst insurrection I ever saw in my life.
Well, the brilliant Kamala Harris told us this was the greatest attack on our capital since the Civil War. So you could really see some
Yeah.
brilliance in that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, we showed some video in the last one that did show some people being rowdy on the outside, but I mean, no deaths on anybody's side other than the protesters, right? It was only
Right.
protesters who died that day. And it's just, and the worst was, an unarmed woman going through a window and being shot in the face. So, I mean, it's, from what we saw, it's funny in that whole 2020, the whole riots of the George Floyd riots was all about police overreaction,
Yes.
supposedly, to crime. And here is a woman who's unarmed, who's veteran, coming through a window because she's obviously had similar concerns as Patrick about what had happened to their election, and they're trying to show that. And here, she's shot in the face for it. So, I just,
Shot and killed. Her name was
yeah,
Ashley Babbitt, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
3 more.
Yeah, and the vast, even police departments, the vast majority, if they were ruling that one incident, shooting somebody unarmed like that in that situation, the police officers, I mean, I have no way of knowing, of course, this is a scientific experiment that hasn't ever been done, but I bet a lot of them would have prosecuted that police officer for homicide. And
You're so right. You're so right. The left does only get upset. Only get upset when the police shoot black people on the streets. Okay, and most of the times it's
yeah,
justified.
well,
But that's the only time the left got upset. But here we have a police officer who incidentally turned out to be black, shooting a white woman in the face. She's unarmed. She's just, well, you could argue that, well, she was not supposed to be in the capital. That's fine. But that still doesn't justify her execution. So, but the left don't get upset about that one. That was a justified shooting as far as they were concerned.
Well, it's just
yeah,
the irony of the whole summer of riots, of that fiery but mostly peaceful protesting that we saw
Yes.
the left cheering on, was suddenly, if you're on the wrong side of the politics, we'll shoot you in the face. I mean, it's literally, and they gave the guy a medal. They didn't just give him a pass; they gave him a
oh
medal.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that. I knew that they exonerated him from any guilt for blowing somebody away like that, but I didn't know they actually gave him a medal. But it doesn't
Oh yeah.
surprise me. Yeah, it
yeah,
does not surprise me.
yeah.
The
So,
guy has several complaints in his file with the Capitol Police. Several.
Yeah, and he was horrible with his firearms training,
The
from what
firearm,
I
yes.
understand.
Some of the
Yeah,
complaints involve his usage and care of his firearm.
yeah,
anything to
all right.
boost the narrative of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anyways, Patrick, one of the things I guess that was part of the fallout of this was, it wasn't just a matter of you going to jail for 6 months. That would be bad enough to have your life impacted and, have the police raid the FBI raid your home, not just like, one policeman show up and say, "Hey, Patrick, you're under arrest." I mean, this is literally an FBI team going through your home and, and yeah, anyways, you can check out that video on Patrick's site too. But here's the crazy thing, is that Patrick had a health condition. And so I'm going to show some visuals here. So these are a few, and I'm not sure if I have them in the right order, Patrick, but this is a few things documenting your health condition. So you had a heart condition, and so you were pleading with the prosecutors to allow you to essentially delay all of this until you had treatment for your heart condition. And so here's a couple other articles, or I mean letters as well, from Kaiser. And did you want to walk us through any of this? There's another one that talks about a prosthetic heart valve here too, and gets into the specifics. But maybe you could tell us, a little more about your condition and why it was that this was an issue.
Sure. So after when I was in FBI, I wasn't allowed to have my heart medicine and stuff. for those days, and then they destroyed through my house. So when I got out, I still didn't have ed meds for a while. I finally got them. I took them. I'm like, there's a problem. I went to the ER. They said, oh, the heart is failing, the aortic valve. And so done throughout that year, we were doing tests and doing all this stuff. And judge wanted me to do a Zoom to find out, you're guilty, and then the sentencing. I had to do more Zooms and calls to them because they wanted me in prison. They were pissed off, and they wanted me. My first appointment was December 3rd, 24. Was actually supposed to go to prison. San Diego was where I was supposed to go. And we were getting driven to prison to be dropped off on December 3rd. And in there, my friend said, you don't look right. I didn't feel right. I had a hard time breathing. And I ended up on the day that I was supposed to be in prison, I went to ER and they admitted me for the heart. And then they looked, my lungs, part of the valve issue causes your lungs to fill up with fluid, and then you can't breathe. So it becomes urgent. So I was in there, admitted. I was in there for 3 days. They got out 3 liters, and Judge Dabney did.
And hold on,
Yeah,
before you go on any further, let me show some visuals of the people involved here. So, cool. James, maybe we could bring up the visual again. So he had Judge Dabney that he's going to be referring to. This is the judge he's talking about. I think it's fair to show who these people were, since they have no compunction about talking about you guys. So this was the judge, and this was the U.S. attorney who was leading the witch hunt here with you guys. So Matthew Graves, and this particular 60 Minutes article, I guess, he says that January 6th probably has the most recorded crimes in all of our history. Recorded crimes, really. So all of those people walking through, just kind of documenting the day. That's the most in U.S. history. These are the people who were involved in this. So anyway, I'll go back to you, Patrick, on your discussion on what actually, how they treated you.
So I didn't show up on the 3rd. I was in hospital. I had to do a Zoom with them. None of the doctors and nurses said that it was a good idea for me to imprison. And basically I had like 5 letters written. And the second I got out, they said, no, you need to be in on Tuesday. I'm like, I just got out of there. We said I have a heart being valve. And they're like, no, doesn't matter. So they basically didn't listen to any of that. And I was like, what the hell? I got to go on the 10th. So they just changed it to the 10th. I'm like, what about the 16th, the 19th, the surgeon on the 20th? All of that gets blown off. So she was their priority was to go me to prison. So I said, okay. And I flew in there, and now it was moved to San Pedro Island, Terminal Island. And I go in there with my meds and letters and thumb drives with records. We throw in all my, I check in. They take my meds. I'm like, I need these morning and night. And they're like, okay, no problem. And they take all my stuff, and I go into barrack, like a dormitory with like up to 100 people in there.
In fact, we have a few visuals I want to show of the facility. So this is where you were sent, Terminal Island. This is the Federal Correction Facility, so you can find that on Wikipedia. Here is an overhead visual that was on the news during, I guess, the coronavirus.
I was right
there. Okay. Yep. And this is a visual of the bunking situation, I guess. Is that pretty much representative of what you were facing when you went in there then, or?
Yeah, that one, I wasn't allowed any of my media. So this is, I think, from COVID-19 and doing all that, because they filled those with COVID people. But yeah, I was I think in that same room. Actually, no, that's a different building, but It was horrible.
Okay. Well, I guess those things. And you also shared some other visuals that had to do with, I guess, during the lockdowns. But since it doesn't really pertain, unless there's some reason why you wanted to show those, that's probably
Yeah, no. Yeah,
yeah.
that's fine.
It gives us enough here. But
Yeah.
anyway, so this is what you were sent to. Why you had a heart condition, and so did you have a stroke while you were there? Then is
So
that
I had seizures. So that night, I was supposed to get it in morning and evening, and I took mine in the house before I left. Took him, and I said, "Okay, I need him in the evening," and they denied him. They said, "Nope, can't have him." I was locked in there, and then I couldn't breathe. I started not breathing. I could feel the fluid growing in my head. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, and I'm telling them I need my medicine. They're like, no, you can get out at 5:30 in the morning on the 11th. I go in there, so I'm standing by the door, like I can't breathe. And so I go in and I walk to where the doctor is in there, and they're like, "Who are you?" They had no records of me, my medicines, nothing. And they're like, "Well, what's your some number?" I'm like, "I don't know what my registration number is. Like, this is who I am. Get me my meds." And they couldn't find him. They're like, "Oh, we don't know any information." She's checking my, putting the stethoscope or whatever it's called, and she's like, "Oh, it sounds like there's fluid in your lungs." I'm like, "Yeah, duh." And I had a seizure. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I need, I kept trying to tell them. I just turned in it's called Lasix. I turned it in, and somehow they couldn't figure it out, and I had the seizure, and I dropped, and I woke up in an ambulance, a different one, because they couldn't deal with it. I was like dying there, and I was at an ER, and I woke up and I look out at the back and I see flashing lights, and it turns out it's the prison guards making sure that I'm in an ambulance, but followed by them to make sure that I don't run away or something. So,
and by the way, I just want to bring this all back to everybody. This is all for essentially trespassing. This is not even what we're seeing, fiery but mostly peaceful protesting that they would have given him an award for back then on CNN and everything else, right? I mean, this is literally just walking through the Capitol on the day of a protest with your camera out and taking pictures. And I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
So
wait a minute.
Justice anyway.
Wait a minute. We haven't asked Patrick. Patrick, did you burn any buildings that day, January 6th?
I don't think so. I didn't do anything, actually.
Did you strike anyone with a flagpole or similar object? No.
Nothing.
I mean, it wasn't a fiery but mostly peaceful protest, and nothing like that. It wasn't nothing like that.
And Tim, I can say I saw the documents when they were up before they pulled them down on the Justice website, and he wasn't charged with any of those. He was charged with exactly the crimes that I showed, and that's what they gave him 6 months for. So essentially, it not even as big of a deal as that congressman who pulled the fire alarm to stop a congressional vote, right? I mean, which they just gave him a pat on the back for, and they say, you're a good guy. You're one of us.
And look at the guy who was trying to interfere with a constitutional proceeding, which is the State of the Union. Al Green got up and shake his stick at his cane at Trump.
His cane. Yeah.
I know that's okay though. Like
threatening the president with a blunt object. I said, okay.
Yeah. So, and the 4 misdemeanors. The whole idea was for me to sign the plea, and basically throwing Trump, saying that Trump incited me and all this. They were going to drop 3 of the 4 and just leave one of them left and pay $25 office, report, whatever it is. And it's like, I wouldn't do it. And so I could tell they were pissed off, obviously. So they put them all back on there. So they would have been gone. So $25. So this
The
is
lawfare. This was part of the
yeah,
lawfare that they were trying to do against
yeah.
Trump.
Was
And I just want to say to everybody, I mean, I'm a libertarian. I didn't actually even vote for Trump. I voted libertarian. So, but I am absolutely enraged and appalled that this is our
Yeah,
government. This is what they did. I mean, it's
yeah,
just absolutely horrifying. So,
right.
Yeah.
So
So
the
when did you get your meds back finally
I
on
never
that
did.
day? Oh, you
So
never did.
I
Never did.
never
Never
got them.
found them.
I found out. So I'll tell you. So I went from the ER, they said, "Oh, you need a new heart valve." I'm like, "Yeah, we know that." And so I got transferred. Same thing. Middle of the night with guards, and I was shackled to a bed, another hospital for a month. Was basically shackled, legs and everything except one. My left hand is it for a month, and I was in there from the 11th. They did the 18th. I was 24 by 7. I had guards around me on the set all the time. So with guns and everything, and like if I would ask to go to the bathroom, I'd be shackled, and they'd watch, walk me over there and keep the door open and keep guns. Some of them had the gun out, some just had their hand on it. So yeah, so I was in there.
just looking for an excuse to earn a medal.
Yeah, yeah, the medal. Yeah,
Their
exactly.
finger
Oh
on the
God.
trigger.
Yeah.
the insurrectionist who's halfway dead was going to try to run from them, or try to do
Right.
something violent against them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And this is probably going way out on a limb, but do you have any case that you could file? Has anybody said, hey, you can class action even, or just a case in you particularly where, you were in their care, under their care, essentially. I mean, if they're going to arrest you. And so things that happen to you,
Yeah.
while under their care, do they get and it's probably going to be the answer. I know it's going to be, but does the government get a complete 100% free pass no matter what? Guy dies of a heart attack. Big deal. Sorry, just kick him off the side of the wall. We'll take care of his body later. Is that what happens? Nothing, essentially.
They'll try, but Cash is in there, and Pam and all them. I think hopefully the people, like, we have cases against DOJ, FBI, the BOP, like all over. So I would think so. I just need to find
there
it.
are.
You
What
should
about
include
you?
the
About
J6
your
committee
situation?
also with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. These low lives. Those
Yeah.
people should be included too.
Yeah. Yeah. He should be in Kitmo, Yeah. So.
Well,
All right.
so
So is there any active case being considered for as an active lawsuit considered in your particular case with your heart issue you had there, your stroke?
Yeah. So I've talked to people, and I'm still trying to fix from the stroke stuff. So it makes it really hard to find and navigate all this. I have people that want to take it. I need to find the right people that can handle a lot of the stuff, so I don't have to talk to different lawyers and stuff. So that's what I'm putting this out. So hopefully see this and says, hey, I'm a great, Constitution lawyer who can fight it and take it on. Like, it seems pretty easy. I've got all the paper, so it seems like it easy for us or for a class action, so.
Yeah, hopefully some sort of a class can get enough legal firepower to really go in there.
Yeah.
And if, with maybe a new Trump administration, if they're open to opening up the records on this, which they should be, because this was clearly part of the lawfare against him, then hopefully that will really empower you guys to get a little bit of justice in all of this, if that's possible. I do have a question now for you as well, but when you were in here, and, you went in, and I know that at the point you went in, Trump had already been elected, but he wasn't in office. So this was back in November, right? And late November, I guess it was. And so, I know the hope was that there would be a pardon. what was going through your mind while you were there all this time, and how did you find out about when you finally got pardoned?
Well, there was one TV out there in the room that I could occasionally see it, depending what they wanted us to. And I saw that the Chan 6 when the election. I was worried that it wasn't going to go through. He wasn't going to be confirmed, But since Trump won electors, also popular, it kind of shot out that shot. Like they can't say otherwise. They were going to say, "Oh, it's they rigged it," And so when I saw Jan 6 get conversion, I was like, "Oh, good. Hopefully the pardon will be coming soon." And then I found out, okay, they can't start doing that until the 20th. I'm like, okay. And I'm in the bed, shackled. I'm like, okay, when the 20th hits and he can start doing pardon, they might not do it if I'm still in the hospital. So I tried to get back into prison. So I was but I was all messed up. So I was like, trying to tell them, "Oh, I'm okay." And they're like, "No." So they transferred me to another hospital and I worked there for a while. And then in early January 10th, 11th, something like that, I finally got back into prison. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting closer. I'm in the infirmity at the prison. So I'm still, in a different section. And I'm like, I need to be in the main part. So I was in there for a couple days. And then I got moved into the K, the barrack, the dormitory. I got in there 3 days before the 17th, something like that. I got into the main part, with all. And so I was in there. And so I was there when 20th. And, I'd met some people and there's some other horror stories about that. But we don't have time to talk about that. But yeah, so I was in there and I was actually watching a TV with one other guy was watching Trump get it and sign the pardons. It's not focusing.
You're actually, we do have a visual.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring
Okay.
up the visual, but that's the actual one we're going to show the visual of.
Yeah.
And so Patrick has framed his pardon, and you can see the picture of the pardon right here. It was February 19th, 2025 is the date that it was, I guess, processed on. Yeah. And so it sounds like you had to wait a little bit beyond just, is this a paperwork issue that you had to wait so far beyond the 20th of January? Or
I made it all look nice, frame it and add the picture and the little flag in the background. But you can download just the basic vanilla one from the site was there. Someone told me, "Hey, your pardons are up." So that's how I got it. And so I made it look a little nicer. But yeah, so I didn't know when we saw sign these off on the 20th early in the day that day. And me and the other guy, there were two Christians that were there that not J6ers, but they were there for other reasons, that shouldn't be there. But they were like, "Oh, you're going to be pardoned." And we're like, "Is it going to be a day, a week, a month? I don't know." And so we're just sitting in there. And I'm like, I'm just hoping I'm going to be pardoned. Hopefully he signed that off for me. And we're just laying there and getting ready to lay down on my bunk. And then the guards came by and said, get out of here. I'm like, "What do you mean get out of here? Get your stuff. You're getting out." So this is January 20th at 8 p.m. or something like that. It came over and said, "Get your stuff up." And I'm like, "Okay." And I went out and they checked me out to get out of there. And I left with an ID and that's it. They kept all my money. They still took my money, $600. They won't give it back to me. So, but no, it's horrible. But I go out there and there was a Christian group that was out there, Mike and a Pam from a church down there that knew I was pardoned and was waiting since the morning in the parking lot all day till I got out of there. By the finished 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that. It was late by the time I walked out. These people waited there to get me out of there. And I walked out And before that, they asked me, "Hey, do you know Pam and Mike?" I'm like, "I don't know who that is." "Oh, do you want to stay here, or go out the door and meet Mike and Pam?" I'm like, "No, and I'll take my chances with them." So yeah.
Well, it sounds like you were probably pretty messed up too because of all of the medical issues you had at the time
Oh
too.
yeah.
So this is
Oh
just
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow.
No. And I mean, it got a lot better for getting out of there. I mean, I have a lot of issues for the rest of my life, unfortunately, but it got a lot better. I can shave and take a shot. So they took me to a hotel. They got a hotel. I met other J6ers from other prisons that they had private, like 10 seat small jet, and they flew us all around the next day to different places. So those guys were awesome, And so
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like just.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Because
go
I
ahead.
had
Tim.
my mic from, I've got this relentless cough again. But anyway, who provided the jet?
They're part of the group, the family, the way in Murrieta, the family, the way church down there. But I guess there's some people that go to church have a lot of money, and one of them knows or goes to, he's like a billionaire or something, and funded like a lot of this stuff to get, there's groups and national places that I think ours is like the West Side, most, but
So they would have pretty much just told you to find your own way home, I guess.
Oh yeah,
out there from where's that, San Diego or someplace at Terminal Island?
After taking his $600, thanks.
You're taking his $600 and leaving him in bad medical shape, and then just out the door.
Yeah, now, good luck getting home.
Nothing warm, just an ID. They've got my wallet, all that stuff. So all I had was literally, and no dollar. They took all my cash. So all I had was my ID, my driver's license, and a piece of paper that's saying you were released. And like they were gonna let me go out, like with nothing. Fortunately, I met them.
Did you ask about your money?
I've been trying it.
No, I mean that night. I mean that very night that they let you out.
Oh, they said no. We need to mail it you. Yeah, no, I tried then. I'm like,
mail it to me.
Yeah. No, they gave me a few bucks, and they had like clothes, stuff to shave with, like backpacks, water, food. They had all this stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had nothing. So thank goodness. God for them, like some amazing people coming through.
I'm sorry, who had the backpack? The people
Christian group
up?
Pam and Mike.
Group?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They had it
for a second there. I just wanted to clear that up. For a second there, I thought the guards gave you that on the way out.
No.
There was no sudden conversion, Tim.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yep.
So they gave him the
they did
ID
give
card.
me they did give me a little duffel bag. That was then they put in my medical records in there. They never even opened them. They were still there when I checked in on the 10th. They just put it in there and it stayed there the whole time. So they did give me those. They never even looked at them. So
never even looked at them to find out what your medical condition was.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is why the government is, when it's in charge of the post office, all those stories. And then of course, when they create their own website and it costs them, $2 or $3 billion and it doesn't even work. Or when Pete Buttigieg creates, what was it, 7 charging things with about, I don't know, $2 billion or something, ended up with 7 electric charging stations.
I think it was more like $8 billion, and you only end up with 7 charging stations, I think is what it was.
For $8 billion, I think you're probably right, Leon.
Yeah. In fairness, they'll probably get a few more, but that's all we got in several years. It's just 8.
Well, fine. I'll give them 10 more. All right, I'll give them 10 more. So there we have almost 20. And we have about $8 billion. We were going to say, we're going to celebrate the 20 now? Come on.
Well, the Democrats would celebrate that kind of stuff if
I guess, yeah,
Trump would have talked
that
about
is considered government efficiency.
Well, speaking of government efficiency, and I think we've gone through most of Patrick's story, but I think the biggest highlight of that story is how it ties into who our new president is, and the fact that this was so much a case of lawfare against him. I mean, after all, if it hadn't been for him being elected, Patrick would still be in jail right now. Right?
Yep.
And who knows what kind of care he'd be getting. So, in fact, I was just with Patrick the other night at the State of the Union watch party that we were having up there. And so I got to see probably one of the most memorable State of the Unions. We're not going to spend much time on it because we've already had a long show. But I do think this is so pivotal, what we saw last night, and what we've been seeing in the first few weeks of this administration, that it is worth taking note of. So let's talk about that just briefly. The video, we have just a couple of video snippets from it that I really think characterize well for the audience what happened and how it was sort of unlike any other State of the Union we've ever seen. So James, can you play KOL SOTU 1?
America is back. Six weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
So that really laid out the character, and I think the showmanship will be apparent in these next couple of clips. So let me just get through these, and then we'll throw in some comments about them. But James, I'd like to show KOL SOTU 2 now. This really gets into Doge, which was one of the big things he was talking about last night. So KOL SOTU 2.
Further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but we'll be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps, which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe. They just don't want to admit that. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
So you see, I mean, like an actual showman, I've never heard a State of the Union that entertaining. But it went even beyond this. It almost turned into a game show, which I thought we were watching like an Oprah show where, well, look under your seat and see what you've won. This is what we're going to. So, James, can you play KOL SOTU 3? Because this particular clip is going to be remembered for a long time.
Joining us at the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
And the Secret Service apparently could use some improvement in their hiring. So because they didn't do a very good job in Pennsylvania.
It's ironic, that guy, the new director of the Secret Service, was the head of Trump, the presidential detail, and he was present at the assassination attempt. He was one of the agents, one of the competent agents on the scene that day in Butler, July 13th.
And I think I've heard too that he's the one who's now been made in charge, I think, of the Secret Service. That's what I've been hearing.
That's what I'm saying. He's not the director of the Secret Service.
So he has that authority, I guess. But there is one more tiny clip I wanted to show, because this shows the almost unscripted nature of some of this that was just beyond belief. So where this same kid pops up in yet another scene that was totally unscripted. So James, do you play KOL SO2 4?
Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets.
I mean, the kid came up and gave him a high five. The kid from the last. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I've never seen a State of the Union like that. So I just, I had a few little criticisms as a libertarian of a few things Trump said, but I mean, it was just an amazing performance, an amazing night. What do you guys think of the State of the Union?
I think Trump was unbelievable. I mean, I'm sure, of course, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He exaggerates a lot. He says some wild and crazy things. Some things I think are quite lunatic. But when you look at what this man is trying to do, this man is literally trying to transform our society for the better, especially transforming the federal government. And notice the left and the Democrats are doing everything they can. They're trying to tie him up in court. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that, all in a desperate attempt to stop the man from doing the job for which he was elected. But I am certain, as I'm standing here, they will fail, because this man will not give up and he will keep on going. Yes, some of us who are liberty-minded, we're going to have some problems with what he's doing. I don't particularly like the tariffs that he's using. But if this ends in something better for this country, keep going, Mr. Trump. Keep going. We need something to fix the craziness that's going on in America right now. Thank you.
All right. Well, you know me, I don't watch much television, so I did not see the State of the Union address. But yes, he has done a lot more libertarian things than a lot of libertarians would have ever hoped for, including
Yes.
including letting go what's his name? Geez, now I'm drawing a
Oh,
blank.
Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht. The pardon for Ross
Yeah,
Ulbricht.
Ross Ulbricht. The pardon of him. And did he mention that at the State of the Union, by the way?
I didn't hear his name mentioned, but I know he did it.
Okay.
But I don't think I
All right.
heard it in the State of the Union.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you,
Okay.
Jason? I didn't hear it.
Right.
I didn't hear it, but one thing I would like to see him do on that pardon front as well is to pardon Julian Assange, because
Sure.
Yeah.
Biden didn't
Yeah,
actually
even-
pardon him. Biden only essentially gave
No.
him a deal. So essentially he's still guilty, right? And I mean the bottom line is
Yeah.
Julian Assange is guilty of journalism. That's what he's guilty of.
Yeah.
Right.
Good journalism in an age of bad journalism, right? This is literally what Julian Assange is in prison for, is what journalism is supposed to be about, and freedom of speech. And it would be wonderful to see Trump actually give him a real pardon and not just some kind of a deal so that he's not sitting in prison,
Right.
and I'd like to also see Eric Snow, or is it Edward Snowden? Also,
Edward
Snowden.
get a pardon as well.
he's-
But I've
that's
crossed my
another one.
fingers and hope. Yeah. So
Yeah. What's up with that?
yeah.
All right.
Patrick, did you have
Patrick
any?
thoughts about this, Patrick?
I thought it was great. I mean, we were in a group with pizza place, and and it was great. And there were people crying with the boy. With we were crying, not me, but watching them, and the reaction to that was just like warming. And the different looking at the same time, the guys on the left, like how can these people? He's got brain cancer, and these people are just like awful stuff, and I'm just like,
Yes.
oh man. And I'm just like, it was great, but to see their other side, it shows it even better. Everybody saw it, even more people saw this, and anyway, so I felt good about
Let me just segue this to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol real quick so we can get through it. What's that, Tim?
I just have to segue in, but they stand with Ukraine. We all know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we saw that. But let me go into our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and this is also related to the State of the Union as well. And then you guys can wrap up with any other comments you have about the State of the Union. The Democrats had a response, and what we saw on the floor was a pretty pathetic response. In fact, I even heard Piers Morgan called it. It was like old ladies with bingo placards or something, putting little signs up. It said stuff like false and stuff. But anyways, it looked pretty pathetic and uncoordinated on their side. And they even had somebody thrown out, as Leon was saying, which I thought it was going to be some kind of coordinated thing, and it wasn't. But there was some discussion afterwards from a few people, and one of them was Bernie Sanders. And so I had a little clip of something that Bernie said, and I think this just goes to the point of how ridiculous the Democrats sound at this point. But Bernie had a few criticisms of Trump, and so let's hear that video real quick. James, it's KNP1.
Mr. President, we have nearly 800,000 Americans who are homeless. Over 20 million of our people spend more than half of their limited income on housing. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everyone knows it, apparently, except you, because in your speech tonight, I didn't hear you mention the housing crisis. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. 3 richest people in America, the folks Trump invited to stand behind him at his inauguration, now own more wealth than the bottom half of our society, 170 million Americans.
Okay, so apparently Bernie doesn't understand that the last 4 years Republicans haven't been in control. Right? I mean, I'm not sure what he thinks. Trump's only been there for about a week or two. I guess he wanted him to get a lot more done than Trump says he's gotten done already. But you can look here. This is the 117th Congress, and it was Democrats in control since January 20th, 2021. It was Democrats in control of the Senate and the House, and of course it was Joe Biden, as Trump has labeled him, a very stupid man who was president for that whole period of time as well. So, and it's just absolutely ridiculous too when you look at it. He talked about homelessness. We've talked about this before. This is the HUD numbers on homelessness. They're worse in all the Democrat states. I mean, this is practically a bigger, you couldn't see a bigger contrast between red and blue between the states that are the worst, and the worst Republican state is actually Alaska. And there's kind of that public handout that everybody gets there, which is, it's almost like a Democrat thing in that sense. So it's it's just absolutely nuts. But this is the HUD thing, and you can see the darker ones are where the homelessness is the worst, and it's mostly Democrat places. And when he talks about wealth inequality, it was the pandemic policy that is one of the things that contributed to one of the biggest transfers of wealth in the history of our country. So, this is a thing from Marketplace with it as an NPR show, and it's 2023. And they're saying that in their discussion that you had one of the biggest transfers of wealth happen during that time. And who was in control there? It was Democrats with lockdown policy doing everything. So this idea that Bernie is sitting here saying, oh, what's Trump going to do about that? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? The man's only been in a few days. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Bernie Sanders is is just one of the biggest hypocrites there is in Congress. He's a damn socialist. Oh, he wants equality for everybody. But he's a multi-millionaire. He have about 4 homes and stuff like that. Never recognize it, never talk about it. But you know what everybody else should be doing to fix inequality in America? Why don't he take the first step and give away some of his wealth? And that will show how committed he is to this fixing inequality. The man is a damn hypocrite. I don't want to hear a damn thing from him.
It's exactly what I've said. I mean, I agree 100%. It's like they could do something. I guess they think everybody is stupid. They just think we're stupid, or you're so deep in there, their brains aren't working, and they're like, oh my God, go for the rich guys. We need to tax them more. It's like, oh, it's crazy.
Okay, well, as far as the wealth inequality, I'd be running off at the mouth about the Fed's role in creating this money that gets plugged right in right away through the carry trades right into the stock market. And so it hits the wealthiest people. And so their wealth is all tied up in these overblown stocks. And, so yes, there is an increased wealth inequality now because of that one factor alone. And, that's a deep-seated systematized thing. And maybe if they actually audit the Fed, maybe if they start thinking about alternative currencies and some of the things that I hear coming out of the Trump administration, maybe we actually will have a hold on this fiat currency problem that we have, because not until it's backed by gold and silver, it ain't gonna ever be fixed. Okay, so is that what Bernie's talking about? Is that what you meant, Bernie? Is that you're in favor of gold and silver backing the dollar? Is that what you want? No, Bernie just wants to spend, and more spend, and put more money into the people in Wall Street, and go on with the status quo. That's what Bernie really wants.
Yeah.
So
perhaps on that note, Tim, we could actually decrease some of this wealth inequality if everybody got to match Nancy Pelosi's stock picks.
Yes.
There's an app for that.
Unusual whales, I think it's called. So, anyway, well, it has been a great show. And Patrick, I just wondered, do you have any final thoughts you wanted to share with everybody? After your experience, or any final thoughts that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say. I thank this group of guys, you guys, Jason, Leon, meeting Tim, and everybody that I've met in this process, and the help that I've had support since getting out, and actually knowing of people that were actually doing stuff that I didn't know. I was in prison. I had no idea what was doing. I was shackled, and I basically just saw and I was like, there were people actually doing stuff, and I'm like, that makes, I have, I think about them every day, and just meeting those people through this, going through the hell to now is like, well, I guess it happened, but I don't know. I don't have anything more to say, but thank you. I would like to get this out. And you mentioned the pardons. So the sticky thing is, you get a pardon, you get out of prison, but it stays on your record. So that's our next step, is to get these records expunged. So as soon as we prove that J6 was all fake, we should get it all our records, because I still have it on the record for all that. So that I'm working on. And a lot.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when Trump tries to get rid of most of the lawfare against him, you guys will get swept up with that. Get your records cleaned up too, hopefully.
Yeah.
But well, thanks so much, Patrick, for all you're doing and all you've done. And, we certainly hope for the best for you going forward as well, too. And certainly if you have more developments, we'd love you to come back and tell us about it. But, and if you're watching this, I mean, here's somebody who's certainly, done their bit for liberty. And we've had a lot of other people on the show who've, made their contributions for liberty as well. So think about what you can do before the next show in your community to try and move the ball for liberty, because as we've seen, I mean, there's a lot of people who are looking out there to take away our liberties, and if we don't do anything about it, that's what's going to happen. So we need to stand up and not just hope for the leaders at the top like a Trump or something. We've all got to do our part. So until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh yes,
See you,
indeed.
Knuckles.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.